As sentiment is being restored back to the markets, I only ask that you remember and recall those who pushed you fear in the times of uncertainty, perhaps made you panic thinking that the cycle was over, that your alts were screwed, you should have taken profits, sell everything, blah 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 blah. Then remember and recall those who stayed objective and resolute in times of extreme uncertainty. Let's not forget how dire this space was when Bitcoin dropped from 110k all the way down to 74k. If you're new to this space or don't have the time or inclination to keep up, I don't blame you for thinking the cycle was done. But that's where guys like myself come in, so you can leverage our experience, look at the unbiased data and opinion to judge for yourself whether we're finished or not. I have been saying, both speaking from my personal opinion alongside the hard data, that the top is not in, and we still have one, if not two legs up to come. I'm just making a point in saying that you're in the right place watching this video. What's going on, guys? I hope you're all doing fantastically well. Another market update video, you know the drill here. Still taking a break from mentioning new projects as the risk is still high, and I believe we should be slightly more defensive than offensive with our capital for the time being. I don't want you guys to be losing money unnecessarily. Today we'll take a look at Bitcoin, see what the charts, sentiment and news stories are telling us. We look at any other standout news articles which are worth mentioning. Then we continue with our macro analysis and see what factors coming in can influence our investments and predict where we are headed. Finally, ETH and our alts are discussed before any potential therapy for us all. As always, whilst I am a financial advisor in real life, none of this is financial advice. So if you watched my last video, you will see I literally called this move up perfectly. I said we are looking bullish, and I have been calling for weeks for a measured move up somewhere in the mid to late April region, potentially moving into early May. I was saying this as early as the start of March, and that's exactly what happened. Some of you may be thinking, how did you predict this? Well, sometimes the charts, the stories, the analysis can be quite obvious, especially when you combine in years of experience and objectivity. I mentioned this level here around 88k as showing resistance in the recent pumps, and if we can get above and close, we should see a move to the low 90s. That's exactly what panned out, and I can probably delete this line now, actually. Bitcoin was 84k when I made that video and has since pushed forward, burst past and hit 95k, which is just, well, it's Bitcoin for you. When this wants to move, it bloody moves. It's great to watch and serves a nice reminder of how quickly things can move in this space. Quick break to ask, why are you not part of the best free community in crypto? Join over 1,000 people determined to make money and help each other out. Sign up to the email newsletter too, it's all free, you've got no excuse, link down below. The 50-week moving average remains intact. As you can see, this has been an incredible indicator so far this cycle. Bitcoin has stayed above very nicely. If we drop and close below this, then I will be looking to say this cycle might be over. But for now, it's been respected quite well. It got quite close a couple of weeks back when we wicked down, but we managed to close above, so yeah, all good on this front. I also spoke about the death cross which had been denoted by medias and certain people. I debunked this by showing that when the 50-day and 200-day moving average cross or kiss like this, we usually have a pump afterwards. We currently just finished kissing, sounds a bit weird, and are seemingly in the middle of a pump. So if we go off the recent patterns, a continued pump is looking likely. Note that I am using the EMA, not SMA, but the theory applies to both. So what next? Bitcoin is back in the 90s range, a very healthy range which we stayed in for some time before. Personally, I would like to see us remain here and chop sideways. Yes, it will be boring, but it gives Ethereum and other coins a chance to catch up, can bring down Bitcoin dominance, and also it's known that the longer the sideways action for a project, the more explosive the next leg up. Kinda like a pressure cooker or volcano. The longer it's bubbling, the pressure builds before it eventually explodes. We can kind of see that here back towards, September, October time last year, throughout the whole summer pretty much. Bitcoin moves sideways and then bang, 3 candles, look where we went. So yeah, you know how we do it on this channel though. We ain't perma bulls, we ain't perma bears. We analyze all angles and see what looks most likely to occur. Bitcoin is still capable of a drop. If we get some negative news, or perceived negative news I should say, we can erase a lot of this recent green. We could drop back down to the 85k region in the short term. This wouldn't concern me, we did move up quite fast. Again, the chart still suggests 70k could be a region to visit. This would not invalidate my thesis, but would cause great fear from this point. But seeing the strength we showed in the midst of the tariff drama, the fact we didn't really get too close to this level renders it unlikely in my book. 65k is the magic number fear-mongering people love to shout about. I've always said no to that one and I stand by it. If we do and close there, the cycle will most likely be looking over. I've shown and mentioned this chart before on this channel, but I want to take another look to remind you all. A lot of people, including myself, were drawing comparisons to the previous cycle, implying we could get a double alt season scenario just like in 2021. Whilst that isn't impossible, it may not be as likely anymore. At the time, I also brought up 2017, a cycle which not many were discussing. Look how similar Bitcoin's price action has followed that of the 2017 top so far. It's eerily similar, similar pumps and dumps. If this plays out again, it implies steady increases, all culminating into a final explosion in Q4, November, December time. Historically, this is the quarter when alt season typically occurs. This is not guaranteed, of course, and I'm finding it difficult to measure just how likely this even is, but it's definitely an interesting observation. I personally wouldn't mind it. I'm used to taking a mid to longer term view on investments. It would also allow us better macro conditions to really send the prices flying. But we could also deviate and could have an early alt cycle to break the trend. I may look to cover that all in a separate video. Moving on to some interesting news articles to mention. Funny how we pump a little and the bullish news begins to surface. I'm seeing predictions of 200k, 210k this year now. Very rarely saw this in the recent months when all you could see was 65k, 60k. There's also talks of buying homes with crypto-backed loans. Of course, very bullish and shows the increasing adoption and legitimacy of crypto assets. And the head of Coinbase basically said, whilst retail were all exiting and selling their positions, the sovereign wealth funds and whales have been accumulating. Who do you want to behave like? The rich millionaires and smart money? Or your neighbor or colleague who tried to buy Trump coin at the top, thinking they could turn $100 into 350k or some BS? This is actually very good news. Remember, follow the smart money. This further corroborates the charts that we looked at last time, which showed the Bitcoin whales accumulating more and more Bitcoin. This one shows the long-term holders also buying up more and more. Michael Saylor has, you guessed it, put another $1.5 billion into Bitcoin, continues to buy more and more. Again, I still don't know whether this is good or bad or just indifferent. There's just so much going on. I mean, holding 553,000 Bitcoin is definitely against the very foundation of Bitcoin. But I mean, it sends a signal to the big investors saying, look, this guy's doubling down, tripling down, quadrupling down, however you want to put it. So yeah, I guess overall it is kind of good for the space in terms of sentiment purposes. Taking a quick look at Bitcoin's net inflows. I haven't mentioned this for a few weeks, but we've held up remarkably well. In all of the tariff drama and uncertainty, look how minute the outflows were, especially compared with the large recent inflows we've been getting. We had back-to-back $1 billion days flowing in, which is huge. Remember, these ETFs would be held on trading platforms just like stocks and shares, and we saw the huge sell-offs there. The fact this data looks very resistant is, again, quite encouraging for when we enter better times. Trump has continued to be somewhat subdued in the tariff talks. Of course, he paused the tariffs and said something like over 100 countries are currently negotiating. I insinuated this could be the case when it started, and it could just turn into a direct trade war with China, if it even escalates at all. What this implies to me is good news is on the way at some point. Either reversals, deals, etc. with countries to bring back much needed sentiment and for people to see this for what it was. 4D chess from Donald to weaken the dollar, reduce the trade deficits and put pressure on the Fed to cut the rates. The dollar has continued to drop, so much so that it has fallen past my risk on region, which I highlighted at the start of the year. If we see rate cuts from the Fed, this could tumble down even further and push people even more towards risk assets like stocks and crypto. The FOMC meeting in a few weeks' time will be very interesting to observe, just like the one before and the one before and the one before. I'm still on the fence as to whether they cut the rates. I'm sure they don't want to look like they were pressured into it by the president, and it could turn into an ego battle of some description to not appear weak. If they don't, it's not a big deal, as I think they're almost guaranteed to be cut in June regardless, but the market could react badly in the short term if it receives news which it deems to be bad. Overall, through 2025, 3 to 5 rate cuts are still being priced in though, with Trueflation showing that we are still comfortably below the Fed's target of 2%, coming in at about 1.55%, which is, yeah, very, very good data. It's that time again where we discuss my favorite shitcoin, Ethereum. Although I must say, she ain't been behaving as shit lately. We actually saw some green. I know, crazy, right? ETH has moved out of the range I predicted it dropping into a month ago. It hasn't gone as far as the $1,200 range, but If Bitcoin slides down, of course, so will ETH. I won't get excited until we see ETH trading above 2K comfortably. Maybe then the market manipulators will allow us to fly just like they did with Bitcoin in November, and we can get some huge fuck off candles. A man can dream anyway. It goes without saying, but we rely on Ethereum as it is still the king of alts. I still expect it to do well and have been accumulating steadily this year. It has the ETFs, and what separates it from the Bitcoin ETF, or what will separate it, I should say, is the APY investors will receive. They'll be making 3 to 6%, which is very juicy, especially over the 0% you get on Bitcoin ETFs. And it finally gives a reason to hold Ethereum over Bitcoin, which investors didn't have before. The deadline for this decision is October, so yeah, the sooner this gets approved, the better. Also, we've been seeing increasing stablecoin regulation all over across many governments. It's clearly a hot topic. Ethereum is still the chain for stablecoins and DeFi, and I think it has such a first mover advantage there that it won't change, or at least it'll be very hard to decouple. This brings in the institutional attractiveness of ETH and will again contribute to prices going much higher. As for our altcoins, most of the utility is either on ETH or linked to ETH, so we may get little pumps here and there, but no major moves until ETH starts crossing levels 2k, 3k, back to 4k, etc. Once we eventually break all-time high, then that's when I expect the exponential moves to come in. Aligning nicely with that is the increasing global liquidity, of course. Been tracking this for months now, and it's broken out and made new highs since September. Remember, Bitcoin follows this with a lag, somewhere between 70 to 105 days. Simple explanation to why this is bullish: more money in circulation means more money available to invest. Combine that with a weakening dollar, lowering interest rates, moves from a contractionary to expansionary monetary policy, and we could be cooking on gas for risk assets. Again, subject to our boy Donald behaving himself. Therapy is going to be quite short this week because, well, you shouldn't be as depressed anymore. You can see from your neutral face here and the fact that you're now sat upright. So it's more positive reinforcement than actual therapy. But yeah, we're finally getting some green. You did a good job of hanging in there and remaining equanimous. And if you pick the strong projects like the ones I've been mentioning regularly on this channel, the bounce back from lows has been very nice to see. BitTenter is up over 2x from its lows. Anyone is also up around 2x from its lows, and even Rio is up over 2x from its lows. Yes, these are risky coins, but the performance in these bounce backs is always encouraging and marks the signs of a strong project. I'm pretty happy because I bought all three of these at or near their lows. I just see it as a risk worth taking. They fit the narratives I expect to do well: AI, depin, privacy. RWA is my sleeper narrative pick. I think it'll really shine once utility comes back around. Deloitte, one of the big four, are saying this industry is going to reach $4 trillion in tokenized real estate within the next 10 years. So we're still very early. I ain't sleeping on new projects, people. In my Discord, guys are still making calls, both short trades or longer investments. So dive in there to keep regularly up to date. It's free, so you got no excuse. Subscribe if you enjoyed the video and are interested in future coin reviews. I really appreciate the support, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Take care.